Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we are talking about the untapped upsell and cross-sell subscription-based sales opportunities that already live in a Dynamics 365 F&O system. My guest, Bjorn Kuijt, head of product management at Bluefort, the sponsor of this episode, shares his latest outlook on lead-to-order processes from the perspective of subscription operations. This may sound like a sales-related topic, and it is to some degree, but it is also a dive into the customer and order data already in Dynamics 365 F&O systems that's ready to be mined to uncover new subscription opportunities. We discuss the subscription economy, the importance of automating subscription-based processes, and how BizApp's partners can become trusted guides to their D365 clients when it comes to setting up and enhancing subscription models. All right. Well, Bjorn, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Great to be here.
So I wanted to begin by just asking you to give a bit of an introduction to yourself and to Bluefort, and we can maybe go from there.
Yeah, my name is Bjorn Kuijt. I'm the VP of Product Management at Bluefort. Been myself in the Dynamics channel for a long time, working with most of the products in the Dynamics 365 portfolio over the years. And since the last 5-6 years, I've been solemnly focused on enabling Dynamics 365 for subscription-based scenarios. And at Bluefort, we are an ISV in the Dynamics 365 space. And from the get-go, we wanted to really focus on recurring subscription-based models, not only the billing part, but also, let's say, the full lead-to-lifetime process that we wanted to cover in the full spectrum of Dynamics 365. And we've been doing that now for quite some time. Our products have been out there on F&O, on BC, and on the CRM applications. So yeah, it's been a great journey so far, Jason.
Thank you for that. And it's such an interesting area of technology and business process, like you were talking about lead to order, as you call it, lead to lifetime. I wanted to start by maybe describing that picture a little bit more for our listeners and what your perspective is from, having your own solution working in the Dynamics 365 space and what sort of the standard products also offer. Can you give us a little bit more of your perspective on subscriptions, subscription operations, and where you see customers viewing those needs?
I think from an overall point of view, we started with moving from the classic value stream, starting with lead to order and then moving order into cash as the lead value streams we wanted to focus on. And we quickly came to the conclusion that from a subscription point of view, the world looks quite different than from a normal order management point of view. And the main differentiation between the two sits around the timeline and the customer interaction in the timeline under a subscription-based model. When you see a subscription, it is not like a one-time thing. There's a continuous interaction with the client that starts off with a new subscription and then evolves over time into multiple different interactions, which in turn can result into different types of additional orders, like adding extra sales or cross-selling or upselling scenarios, like upgrading and downgrading licenses, for example, or other variants of that. But the key driver is really that from a lead into an order, that part is really all about sales, utilizing the Microsoft 365 marketing and sales capabilities. And that's where we've extended the data model and the application capabilities to not only sell like the classic scenarios, but actually really embed that subscription-based flavor into it, where you can outline subscription agreements in terms of duration, in terms of subscription products, with the typical pricing models that sit underneath that, with tiered pricing, with the pricing based on consumption, and really making sure that the offering from a subscription-based point of view, both in CRM but also in the ERP applications, are facilitated. And when it then comes on the other side, from lead to order into order to cash, things like upselling, cross-selling, but also procurement, the interaction with project services in project operations become very relevant because we also support models around managed services, for example. And then finally, at the end of order to cash, getting the cash in is, of course, instrumental for our clients and also for our product capability. And that's why we also have embarked on much more payment automation horsepower in our offerings by virtue of dealing with Go Cardless and with Stripe and with other payment providers. to also automate that part as well and being able to close that loop off from a value stream point of view. And that value stream for us really changed into lead to lifetime rather than order to cash as such, I would say.
Can you talk a little bit more about sort of the customer perspective? I mean, when they're evaluating the future of their subscription capabilities and some of these advanced topics you're talking about, what are you hearing from like D365 finance and operations customers around this?
I think to start off with the evaluation of how customers evaluate their needs, very often it depends on the type of customer and the typology of the subscription business model that they operate in. I mean, I would say we focus strongly on companies that operate in a software as a service based model or a project services based model. And that means that we need to look and evaluate with them how their subscription model really comes together for their end customers. And what that means is that models like pay-per-use, consumption-based, or even the good old perpetual and enhancement plan models are all elements that we evaluate with them. And from an F&O point of view, the good news for us is that since there's such a rich capability already in terms of master data, in terms of financial capability, but also branching out into project services scenarios or even commerce scenarios, we have a solution that fits all these different capabilities. So when it comes to evaluation, it's really about helping a client to understand, like, what is your subscription business model all about? And in order to give that, let's say, a more digital flavor, we team up with SEER 365, where we've enabled their platform for us to build a tool that we call Guide Discover that helps us really pin down with the client what kind of subscription capabilities they need. And out of that comes like, okay, do we need to start with standard subscription billing in the standard F&O product? Or do we already need to go think about additional capabilities that we have to offer on top of that? Like, for example, CRM-related sales capabilities around subscription management or procurement of subscriptions, or maybe even branching out into box subscription models that are really on the uprise in the retail space, where we augment our solution in the commerce domain as well. So yeah, evaluating customer needs really is all about making it personal for a customer, taking them onto a journey that we can digitalize as we capture their early requirements in the evaluation stage, and making sure that from our portfolio, we bring in the right capabilities to support their needs.
That's really interesting. I mean, it seems like different organizations will be in very, very different starting points when you're engaging with them, or when they're maybe their Microsoft partners, engaging with them on planning for this kind of investment. What are some of the techniques, or what are some of the ways to approach this kind of a challenge, both from a process perspective and maybe from a technology perspective?
I think that taking care of challenges has a lot to do with really understanding a subscription lead to life cycle process. And the heart of it is always subscription billing. There's really no doubt about that. But as you look into a subscription-based scenario, it is also about, how do I sell a subscription effectively? How do I, as a business, sell the right type of subscription in both a B2C or B2B model to my customer by offering the right solutions with the right licensing or subscription-based pricing model attached to that, which is often something that our customers would like to see in a CRM environment, where, let's say, you have a really dedicated application to drive that sales capability. And then what we've done a lot over the years is to listen to our customers and understand how can we elevate their sales capability using our software tools in Dynamics. And one great example of that is a capability in Lisa called Smart Opportunities, which actually looks into the installed base of subscriptions that you've already recorded and that you're already billing and maybe purchasing for or actually running as such. And then we can identify relationships between products that are on those contracts, but also which products should be on those contracts and aren't. And that is something that we can quite quickly configure and set up. And then we can run our Smart Opportunities service, which in turn will look at all the installed base subscription plans, analyze what subscriptions they have, which subscriptions they should have but haven't purchased yet, and then from there create new opportunities that we can push back into Dynamics 365 Sales, or Lisa Reach, which is our model that sits on top of the sales application, and then generate new opportunities for the sales team or the customer services team to up and cross-sell those products to customers that haven't purchased those products yet. And that I think is a really good example of zooming into scenarios where the subscription data model and the lead to lifetime perspective of the process comes in and helps, and where our tools can help a client to really boost revenue by creating those new opportunities. Because we all know that salespeople ultimately won't crunch that data, so they need the right tools to do it for them. And that's where the smart opportunities capability, as one out of many capabilities, comes in to do that.
So this is, if I understand, is this considered a type of, an automated process where identifying the customers who are, perhaps good candidates for these opportunities for upsell, cross-sell of services and new offerings, is that part of it, the level of automation that's taking it perhaps out of sort of individual sellers' hands and helping across the organization?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jason. I think the objective from when we started to develop this capability some years ago now stemmed indeed from that. We have a portfolio of subscriptions out there that are generating revenue. At the same time, the nature of many subscription businesses is to quite heavily focus on innovation to retain their customers on the one hand, but also to elevate their product capabilities as they go forward. And in order to monetize those investments and innovation in new subscription capabilities, often leads to add-ons to existing in-market subscriptions that are already deployed in the installed base and are already being built through subscription management. But how do you reach those customers with those new innovative add-ons or cross-selling capabilities that you've developed after they already purchased that subscription? That's really the challenge. And you have the data. So it's indeed about developing the right capability to surface those opportunities and then use the strength of Dynamics 365 sales to route those opportunities to the right account managers or to the right sales team members so that they can in turn, come to the office in the morning or be at their home office and see, hey, I got 7 new opportunities I can go after now that are system generated. And I think that helps on the one hand, the value of technology in a subscription business. And at the same time, I'm guessing that the reaching the target quota for that sales or customer service person will be boosted up as well. So in that sense, it's a great setup. And it also shows it's not only about billing, it's also about utilizing our solutions to sell more subscriptions as well.
Yeah, interesting. Are there any examples that come to mind that really reinforce some of these concepts and use them that you might mention?
One of our customers, for example, is selling a software platform to manage health and safety, usually sold to larger types of manufacturing companies. And they recently have invested quite heavily actually in Power BI dashboards and templatized capabilities for them that they now offer to their customers so that they can in turn get standard dashboards in place in their business. And it's kind of an add-on to the existing product that they've already been selling for years. So they managed to actually productize that offering of data analytics, and then they had to sell it. So one of the best segues into their installed base was to run these smart opportunities by defining this new BI package that they've created and actually drive that upselling effort through smart opportunities right up to the sales team and customer services team to quite quickly start getting a return on investments on that innovation of that new add-on. So I think that was an awesome scenario of how one of our customers is really getting a value out of this capability.
Yeah, interesting. And maybe bonus points for working in Power BI to the conversation here.
Sure thing.
Well, I wanted to also just get your perspective on what you're seeing in the Microsoft technology roadmap more broadly, or, with regard to how it impacts Bluefort and Lisa. Anything you would note there?
For sure. I think there's a lot of buzz going around when it comes to Dynamics 365 these days. And not only these days, I think there's been some great momentum we've had from a technology point of view when it comes to Dynamics 365. And looking at, let's say, the perspective of where we really benefited from is the focus of Microsoft on the F&O side, specifically on subscriptions. So there are subscription billing capabilities in the product now, which we use as a big capability and really embrace it in our solution stack as well, which is a great enabler for us to further advance into more detailed functionality and capabilities, such as the smart opportunities capability. There's many more examples of that. So that's a really great step forward for us. But looking at it more from a future point of view, seeing the investments Microsoft is making in AI, launching Copilot as a great practical way of making AI part of daily user activities, is a great step forward. And I think that as soon as we can work on getting these kinds of capabilities also to tap into our subscription data model, then I think that we are sitting on something that will really help us to create more subscription-based propensity, as well as renewal prediction capabilities, and making even the smart opportunities capability we just discussed even better because of those capabilities, tapping into telemetry or usage data, which subscription companies are fully immersed in. Then when I look a bit further down the line, I think that more and more as we go forward, I think clients want to be less dependent on massive ERP projects. So also much more quicker, fast-tracked deployments and natural setups that they want to achieve to, in turn, get a reduced time to usage is, I think, top of mind for all of us in the Microsoft Dynamics 365 ecosystem. And we're always working on how can we quicker get the subscription model up and running at a client on top of Dynamics. So yeah, that's another important element as well, I think. And I'm feeling that the AI part and Copilot will also in the future help us to get there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on the Copilot. Even if maybe Microsoft is not launching anything that is exactly a match for what for what you focus on, I should say, in terms of your business value. The emergence of these Copilot capabilities, I think, if nothing else, gets a lot more Microsoft users, F&O users, thinking about what the possibilities are and where the world is headed in terms of the ability to do make smarter decisions and put more sophisticated business processes in place, and gets them thinking that way for sure.
I think so too. And I think one big thing that I see ahead of us as well from a Microsoft point of view and listening to our conversations with the Microsoft team, the Microsoft engineering focus out there these days, I think that more and more we see alignment across the different applications as well in practical ways. Like the new UI uplift recently in F&O is a good proof point of that, of making the UI capabilities more natural and closer to each other, because at the end of the day, there's still some differences there, which I think as we go forward into the future will be more ironed out. And then underneath that presentation layer of the Dynamics applications and consequently our applications that are built right in the heart of that is what I'm really looking forward to, is to see more unified user experiences in the applications as well that are more seamless, not only by virtue of the UI, but also by virtue of the data that sits underneath all of that, and making that more seamless. I think some good progress has been made with the uprise of dual write, but I'm really looking for more, let's say, horsepower and capabilities and performance on unifying the data model under all the Dynamics 365 apps. And then lastly, I think, I'm also really looking forward how we can team up with the Microsoft guys on even further extent of user interface capabilities on phones and on other devices rather than laptops and so forth. So there's a lot more to come there in unifying the platform and really make it one Dynamics platform, which I think is on the go right now, which is great.
Yeah, certainly. That's a very interesting area. I'll certainly be watching also. Thanks for sharing that. And just to maybe change gears a bit, I wanted to get your perspective on sort of opportunities in the channel. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about customers, but they don't typically approach challenges like this too often without the help of a trusted partner. Certainly, I guess there are opportunities in and among all of these topics for partners to help their customers.
Absolutely. And I think if we look at the opportunity at hand here, I think it's fair to say that if you look at the subscription space itself and you classify it in terms of industry, then SaaS and cloud solutions providers, not Dynamics, but in the broader sense of the word, people that offer software solutions that are running on a subscription-based scenario, or even companies that are in the offering of media services or broadband capabilities or telecom capabilities, are all subscription-based companies. And there's a great opportunity there because that market is pretty much in the hands of a completely diversified set of companies that are serving that space right now. And we, within the Microsoft channel, have a great opportunity to jump on that bandwagon and go into the subscription space as we're not so much known in there. I think the Dynamics stack is very well known in the usual areas where we're strong: retail, manufacturing, professional services. But really going more into the domain of subscription is an opportunity where I think we can gain a lot of market share if we team up with our partners, which is what we're doing right now. We had some great wins recently with partners in the UK, in the US, in different subscription-based areas. And I think it's a channel where all the capabilities we've been talking about on the Dynamics side, augmented with the subscription capabilities that we bring from a Bluefort point of view, really gives us a momentum to bring that to a whole new space that we otherwise wouldn't have been into. So yeah, I think that's a big thing there, where we can go head to head with companies like Oracle NetSuite with suite billing, Salesforce CPQ on the CRM side, as well as Zuora, which, although it's a great product, really doesn't have that completeness of processes that we have to offer from a lead to lifetime point of view. And that means that I think that the rise also of subscription revenue in general, if you look at Gartner, which we've partnered up with intensively over the last 2 years, it's a big market that's really growing. So yeah, seizing that perspective of going into that market where, let's say, Dynamics 365 is not that known yet, is really getting our focus into a market that is relatively untapped. And that would really, I think, drive opportunities for our partners going forward.
Very interesting point, and it certainly gives me anyway, and I hope our listeners too, really some ways to look to the future and where the Microsoft Business Applications ecosystem could and perhaps you might argue should be going as we move forward. Thanks so much for being here, Bjorn. Really a pleasure to hear your perspective. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks a lot, Jason.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Bjorn Kuijt for joining me today, and this message from Bluefort. If you'd like to learn more about leveraging D365 F&O to accelerate your subscription revenue, tune in to the upcoming webcast where Bjorn talks to Rick McCutcheon in more depth about the topic. In this free webinar, Bjorn discusses how you can revolutionize your subscription management in Dynamics 365 F&O with Bluefort Lisa, while showing you how to easily zero in on and convert untapped revenue streams, all through the power of automation. We'll put a link to the sign up in the show notes where you can watch the webinar. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me by email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. For all of our updates, please do follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.